Dr. Xander Vale stood before the Lunar Research Institute's board of directors, his wild grey hair defying gravity much like his theories defied conventional wisdom. The presentation screen behind him displayed complex equations that looked more like a drunk mathematician's fever dream than serious scientific research. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, adjusting his crooked bow tie that somehow matched his crooked smile, "what you're about to witness will revolutionize energy production as we know it." He paused for dramatic effect, but the only response was Dr. Henderson's barely concealed yawn from the front row. The prestigious lecture hall, with its sleek quantum displays and holographic interfaces, felt more like a comedy club, and not the successful kind. Dr. Vale could already see the eye rolls beginning, but he'd learned to wear their skepticism like a badge of honor. "Humans," he continued, pacing with the enthusiasm of a caffeinated squirrel, "produce approximately 900 trillion joules of energy annually through laughter alone. That's enough power to run New Manhattan for a month, and we're just letting it dissipate into the atmosphere like yesterday's bad jokes." Dr. Peterson, the head of the energy division, rubbed his temples. "Dr. Vale, are you suggesting we power our cities with chuckles?" "Not just chuckles, Thomas. Giggles, guffaws, snorts, the whole spectrum of human mirth." Xander clicked to the next slide, revealing a diagram of what looked like a giant funnel connected to a power grid. "My research shows that the vibrational frequency of human laughter, when properly harvested and converted, can be transformed into pure energy." The room erupted in exactly the kind of energy he was talking about, though not in the way he'd hoped. Dr. Yamamoto was practically crying with laughter, while Dr. Chen had to lean on her colleague for support. "Should we hook up a comedy club to the power grid then?" someone shouted from the back. "Actually, yes," Xander brightened, missing the sarcasm entirely. "Phase 2 of my proposal includes converting entertainment venues into power stations. Think about it. People pay to laugh, we harvest the energy, everybody wins." "This is absurd." Dr. Henderson stood up, his face red from either anger or suppressed laughter. "The Lunar Research Institute is the most respected scientific organization in the solar system. We're not about to waste resources on joke power." More laughter followed, and Xander made a mental note of the energy being wasted. By his calculations, this room alone could have powered his lab for a week. "The presentation is over," Henderson announced, gathering his things. "Dr. Vale, please see me in my office to discuss your future projects, or lack thereof." As the room cleared out, only Dr. Vale remained, staring at his equations. He didn't notice the strange shimmer in the air near the ceiling, where something that wasn't quite there watched with great interest. In the corner of the lecture hall, a nearly invisible distortion recorded everything, transmitting data across light years to a civilization that hadn't laughed in millennia. The beings watching hadn't understood humor for generations, but they understood energy, and their dying sun made them desperate for any solution, no matter how ridiculous it seemed. Xander packed up his materials, his enthusiasm undimmed. "They laughed at Einstein too," he muttered to himself, then chuckled at the irony. "At least they're contributing to my research without knowing it." As he left the hall, his device beeped softly in his pocket. The energy readings were off the scale, stronger than any he'd recorded before, but more interesting was the strange interference pattern he'd never seen, almost as if something else was in the room, something that didn't belong on Earth. He dismissed the thought. After all, he had enough problems convincing people about laughter as energy without adding aliens to the mix. Little did he know, as he walked down the pristine corridors of humanity's most advanced research facility, that his ridiculous theory was about to become the galaxy's hottest commodity. 3 months after his humiliating presentation, Dr. Xander Vale's basement laboratory looked like a cross between a mad scientist lair and a comedy club's storage room. Rubber chickens hung from energy conduits, laugh track machines were wired to quantum processors, and his prized collection of ancient comedy records sat next to state-of-the-art energy converters. "Log entry 47, he spoke to his recorder, tinkering with what looked like a disco ball crossed with a Tesla coil. "The board may have cut my funding, but they can't cut my determination, or my electricity, thanks to some creative rewiring," he paused. "Note to self, send anonymous payment to power company before they notice." The device in front of him was his 15th prototype of the Joy engine. Previous versions had either fizzled out or, in the case of number 7, turned his hair blue for a week. This one felt different. The quantum crystalline matrix he'd salvaged from a broken hologram projector had shown promising results in preliminary tests. Beginning test sequence for Joy Engine Mark 15. He adjusted his protective goggles. Playing test stimulus number 1. His computer began playing a compilation of classic comedy clips. George Carlin's voice filled the basement, followed by Richard Pryor's distinctive laugh. The crystalline matrix began to hum. Energy readings nominal, no sign of... Wait, he leaned closer to his instruments. The numbers were climbing steadily, but something was off. There was a secondary reading, a pattern he'd seen before, back in the lecture hall. Suddenly, his ancient coffee maker sparked to life despite being unplugged for months. The lights brightened, then dimmed, then brightened again, in sync with the laughter from his speakers. Holy quantum harmonics, Xander whispered, checking and rechecking his readings. It's working. It's actually working. The Joy Engine's crystal core was glowing now, pulsing with each burst of recorded laughter. His instruments showed it was converting the acoustic energy into pure electrical power, exactly as his theories had predicted. In his excitement, Xander tripped over a power cable, knocking over his shelf of comedy records. The crash made him laugh out loud, and the Joy Engine responded spectacularly. Every electronic device in the basement surged with power. His computer screen showed energy readings off the charts. Live laughter is exponentially more powerful than recordings. He scrambled to his feet, laughing harder now. The emotional component must amplify the conversion process. Unknown to Xander, high above Earth's atmosphere, dozens of cloaked sensors suddenly activated. His breakthrough had created an energy signature unlike anything their alien operators had seen before. Xander spent the next 4 hours running tests, each more successful than the last. He discovered that different types of laughter produced different energy signatures. Genuine belly laughs created powerful, stable energy flows, while nervous chuckles produced erratic bursts. Log entry 47 continued, he spoke, his voice hoarse from laughter. The Joy Engine not only works, but it's more efficient than my original calculations suggested. A single hearty laugh contains enough convertible energy to power a standard home for several minutes. The implications are... He trailed off, staring at his secondary sensors. The strange interference pattern was back, stronger than ever, but now his instruments were refined enough to tell him more. Whatever it wasn't coming from Earth. Computer analyze pattern against known terrestrial energy signatures. No match found, the computer responded. Patterns suggest artificial origin. Source, approximately 27,000 kilometers above Earth's surface. Xander dropped his coffee mug, barely noticing as it shattered. Run it again. Analysis confirmed, multiple sources detected, all non-terrestrial. He laughed nervously and watched as the Joy Engine responded, its energy pulse shooting upward through his sensors, like it was reaching for something. The interference patterns intensified. They're scanning us, he realized. Someone up there is very interested in what we're doing down here. As if in response, his instruments detected a new pattern, a deliberate, rhythmic pulse that couldn't be natural. First contact was about to be made, and it would happen because of a machine powered by human laughter. Well, Xander said to his empty lab, I wanted my research to have an impact, though I was thinking more along the lines of a Nobel Prize, not first contact with alien life. He paused, then laughed again. I wonder if they have a sense of humor. The Joy Engine hummed happily, converting his laughter into pure energy, while far above, alien civilizations that had long forgotten how to laugh prepared to meet humanity. Their dying suns and depleted energy reserves had driven them to search the galaxy for solutions. None of them had expected to find it in something as simple as human joy. As Xander began documenting his breakthrough, his computer detected something new. Ships, massive ones emerging from hyperspace just beyond Mars's orbit. The galactic community had noticed Earth's new energy signature, and they were coming to investigate. Log entry 47, final note, Xander spoke, watching the ships approach on his instruments. I have a feeling the board of directors is going to want to revisit their decision about my funding, and maybe apologize for all that laughing, he grinned, though technically their mockery helped power the breakthrough that's about to change everything. The Zoraxian delegation materialized in Xander's basement lab with all the warmth of a tax audit. Their crystalline bodies refracted the fluorescent lighting, sending rainbow patterns dancing across his collection of comedy memorabilia. The lead Zoraxian, who introduced himself as High Commander Zix, managed to look down his non-existent nose at everything simultaneously. "This is the source of the energy signature." Zix's translator converted his crystalline resonances into English. "We expected something more dignified." Xander glanced around at his cluttered lab, suddenly seeing it through alien eyes. The rubber chickens probably weren't helping his credibility. "Well, you know what they say on Earth. Appearances can be deceiving." "We do not know what they say anywhere," Zix responded. "The Zoraxian Empire has evolved beyond such primitive conversational customs." "Right, of course." Xander resisted the urge to make a stick-up-their-butt joke, mostly because he wasn't sure Zoraxians had butts. "Would you like to see the Joy Engine in action?" The three Zoraxian scientists accompanying Zix moved forward, their crystalline forms humming in what might have been interest. Their species had mastered quantum mechanics before Earth had invented the wheel, but they'd never seen energy readings quite like these. "Proceed," Zix commanded, though I fail to see how acoustic vibrations produced by primitive emotional responses could possibly. Xander played his favorite comedy compilation. The room filled with classic routines, genuine audience laughter, and the sound of Zoraxian crystals vibrating in shock as the Joy Engine sprang to life. Energy readings soared. "Impossible," one of the scientists chimed. "The energy conversion ratios are beyond anything in our databases." "And this is just from recordings," Xander said proudly. "Live laughter is even more powerful. Watch this." He told his favorite joke, the one about the quantum physicist and the bartender. The Zoraxian stared blankly, but his own laughter sent the Joy Engine into overdrive. "Fascinating," another scientist resonated. "The emotional component appears to amplify the energy output exponentially." High Commander Zix's crystalline form clouded slightly. "A curious parlor trick, but hardly practical for large-scale energy production. The Zoraxian Empire requires—" "Actually," Xander interrupted, pulling up his calculations, "I've run the numbers. A medium-sized comedy club could power a small city. A stadium comedy show, you're looking at enough energy to run a space station." The Zoraxian scientists huddled together, their crystalline bodies chiming in rapid discussion. Xander caught phrases like dying sun and energy crisis in their translated murmurs. "Your species," Zix said finally, "appears to waste considerable time and resources on this humor concept. You could be advancing your civilization instead of engaging in pointless emotional displays." "Oh, I don't know." Xander leaned back in his chair. "We managed to create an energy source you've never seen before by being emotionally primitive. Imagine what else we might discover while you're busy being evolved." The basement temperature seemed to drop several degrees. "Is that a threat, Dr. Vale?" "Not at all, just an observation about different approaches to science. You've mastered quantum mechanics, we've mastered making people laugh. And now it turns out laughter might help solve your energy crisis." The Zoraxians conferred again. Xander noticed their crystalline forms vibrating at frequencies his instruments had never detected before. Were they worried? "The Zoraxian Empire," Zix announced, "proposes an exchange. We will provide you with advanced technology, and you will share this Joy Engine with us." "Counter-proposal," Xander said. "You help us develop and refine the technology, and we share the benefits equally. Plus, you have to at least try to develop a sense of humor." "Absolutely not," Zix chimed sharply. "The Zoraxian Empire does not engage in emotional development." "Then no deal," Xander stood up. "The Joy Engine runs on humor and happiness. Without understanding those, you'll never unlock its full potential. You need us as much as we need you." The tension in the room could have powered a small town. The Zoraxians vibrated in frequencies that made Xander's teeth hurt. Finally, Zix spoke. "We will consider your terms, but be warned if humans attempt to weaponize this technology." Weaponized laughter. Xander couldn't help it. He burst out laughing. The Joy Engine surged, making every crystal in the room resonate. Sorry, but you have to admit, that's pretty funny." "We do not have to admit anything," Zix responded. But was there a slight change in his crystalline structure, almost like appreciation? As the Zoraxians prepared to depart, Xander called out, "Hey, why did the crystal go to the doctor?" Zix paused. "Why?" "Because it was feeling a bit shattered." The Zoraxians teleported away without responding, but Xander's instruments recorded an unusual energy spike right before they vanished. something that looked suspiciously like the signature of suppressed laughter. The United Earth Council chamber buzzed with tension as representatives from every nation faced the Zoraxian delegation. On the central display, blueprints for the world's first industrial-scale joy engine rotated slowly. "You have 3 Earth months," High Commander Zix announced. "Demonstrate this technology can power a major city, or our empire will seek alternative solutions." Dr. Henderson, who'd mocked Xander's presentation months ago, now sat front and center as Earth's chief science advisor. 3 months is impossible. The engineering requirements alone. "Then perhaps your species is not as capable as Dr. Vale suggested," Zix chimed dismissively. "We'll do it in 2, Xander called out from his seat, earning glares from half the room. "Sydney has volunteered their entertainment district as a test site. We can convert the Opera House into the primary collection facility." The next 6 weeks became a blur of global cooperation and occasional sabotage. Construction crews worked around the clock, converting Sydney's entertainment district into the world's first laugh-powered grid. Comedy clubs were retrofitted with energy collectors, and the Opera House's iconic shells were transformed into massive resonance chambers. But not everyone was happy about Earth's new direction. "Another equipment failure," Xander's assistant reported. "The quantum harmonizer's crystals were completely misaligned. If we'd activated it—" "Let me guess," Xander sighed, examining the sabotaged component. "It would have looked like a catastrophic failure of the entire theory." Security footage kept mysteriously malfunctioning around sensitive areas. Key components arrived incorrectly calibrated. Dr. Henderson's warnings about rushing untested technology grew increasingly dire. "You're making us look foolish," Henderson cornered Xander after a progress meeting. "First contact with an advanced civilization, and we're showing them comedy routines?" "No," Xander replied, checking his tablet as another power reading came in. "We're showing them innovation they've never seen before, and it's making them nervous." The sabotage attempts grew bolder. Someone leaked doctored test results suggesting the Joy engine might create dimensional rifts. 3 comedy clubs reported their energy collectors had been tampered with. Environmental groups protested that they were harvesting human emotions. But public opinion shifted when the first test results came in. A single night of stand-up comedy at a retrofitted club produced enough energy to power the venue for a month. The Opera House's first full-scale test lit up half of Sydney. "The numbers are beyond our projections," Xander explained to the council. "When humans laugh together, the energy output multiplies exponentially. It's not just adding up individual laughs, there's some kind of resonance effect." The Zoraxians observed everything with increasing agitation. Their crystalline forms vibrated at frequencies that suggested either deep concern or indigestion. 2 days before the final demonstration, Xander found his lab ransacked. The original Joy engine was gone, along with his research notes. On his desk sat a resignation letter, already bearing his forged signature. "Nice try," he told the empty lab, "but you're about 3 weeks too late." The real notes were safely distributed across servers worldwide. The original Joy engine was on display in Sydney's Museum of Science, having served its purpose. The industrial versions were already far more advanced. The day of the demonstration arrived. Sydney's entertainment district was packed with humans and aliens alike. Every venue, from the smallest comedy club to the Opera House itself, was filled to capacity. "This is humanity's greatest achievement," Dr. Henderson announced to the media. "Thanks to the guidance and wisdom of our more advanced friends." He nodded to the Zoraxian delegation. "Actually," Xander interrupted, grabbing the microphone, "this is humanity showing the galaxy something new, something we created by embracing what makes us human, not by copying someone else's homework." He pressed a button on his tablet. Every screen in the district lit up with comedy. Stand-up routines, classic movies, live performances, a celebration of human humor in all its forms. The power readings started climbing. As the laughter spread through the district, the Zoraxians watched their instruments with disbelief. The energy output wasn't just meeting their requirements, it was exceeding them. Their own crystals began resonating sympathetically with the waves of human joy. And in the back of the Opera House, if you looked very carefully, you might have seen High Commander Zix's crystalline form shimmer in what was almost, but not quite, a chuckle. "Welcome to the first Galactic Comedy Festival." The announcement boomed across Sydney's entertainment district, where humans and aliens packed every venue. Massive screens displayed the power readings for all to see, while Zoraxian scientists triple-checked their instruments. "Engineering reports all systems ready," Xander's assistant called out from the control center. "Comedy clubs report full capacity. The opera house is standing room only." Xander nodded, watching the initial readings climb. The entire city of Sydney had been temporarily disconnected from its regular power grid. For the next 24 hours, every light, every device, every piece of technology would run purely on laughter. "Beginning Phase 1, he announced. Amateur comedy nights kicked off in smaller venues, while comedy classics played in converted movie theaters. The power meters started ticking up. High Commander Zix observed from the control center, his crystalline form vibrating with skepticism. "These readings are already exceeding predicted levels." "Just wait," Xander grinned. "The professional shows haven't even started yet." The Opera House's main stage featured a rotating lineup of Earth's best comedians. As the first headliner took the stage, the energy collectors hummed to life. Laughter rippled through the crowd, and the power readings jumped. "Impossible," one Zoraxian scientist chimed. "The conversion efficiency is beyond theoretical limits." Then came the unexpected moment that changed everything. A Zoraxian diplomat attempting to understand human culture tried to tell a joke. It was terrible, absolutely horrible. The kind of joke that's so bad it becomes funny. The humans lost it. The combined power of genuine laughter at a Zoraxian attempting humor sent the readings off the scale. Emergency systems kicked in as energy flooded the grid. The Opera House's shells glowed with accumulated power. "We're at 300% of projected capacity," Xander's assistant shouted. "The resonance effect is amplifying everything." The Zoraxian diplomat, encouraged by the response, tried another joke. This one was somehow worse. Humans were literally falling out of their seats laughing. Even some of the younger Zoraxians were vibrating at frequencies suspiciously close to amusement. "Divert excess power to the secondary grid," Xander called out. "We're lighting up the whole East Coast tonight." The power readings kept climbing. Sydney blazed with light, every screen and device running at full power, and they were still only using a fraction of the energy being generated. High Commander Zix stared at the readings, his crystalline form clouded with confusion. "Our calculations, our understanding of energy conversion. We're missing one key component," Xander explained. "Joy isn't just an emotion, it's meant to be shared. When humans laugh together, the energy doesn't add up, it multiplies." The festival continued through the night. Every failed attempt at humor by the Zoraxians only made humans laugh harder. The power grid handled loads that should have been impossible, fueled by pure, unrestrained happiness. As dawn approached, the final readings came in. Sydney hadn't just survived on laugh power, it had generated enough excess energy to supply 3 more cities. The Zoraxian scientists were running out of explanations for why it shouldn't work. "We have had to revise our assessment," High Commander Zix announced formally. "The Joy Engine technology appears to be viable." The control room burst into cheers. Even Dr. Henderson managed a grudging nod of approval. "Though we still do not understand why humans found my species' attempts at humor so entertaining," Zix added. This, of course, triggered another wave of laughter and another spike in power readings. As the sun rose over Sydney, humanity had proven something remarkable. Not just that laughter could power cities, but that joy, shared across species and cultures, could illuminate the darkness in ways science alone never could. And somewhere in the crowd, a young Zoraxian crystallized a sound that hadn't been heard in their species for millennia: a giggle. 2 weeks after the successful test, High Commander Zix requested a private meeting with Xander in the Sydney Opera House's now famous control center. The Zoraxian's crystalline form seemed dimmer than usual. "We have not been entirely forthcoming about our interest in your technology," Zix began, projecting a hologram of a massive dying star. "This is our home system's sun. We have perhaps 30 years before total collapse." Xander watched the stellar simulations play out. "That's why you've been searching for new energy sources. We have harvested the power of 1,000 suns, built Dyson spheres around dying stars, mastered fusion and antimatter." Zix's crystal structure darkened. "And yet we cannot match the energy density your species produces through mere emotional expression." Before Xander could respond, the control center's alerts lit up. Ships were appearing in high-orbit vessels of designs he'd never seen before. "The Arcturus Collective," Zix explained as one alert chimed. The nebula nomads, another chime. The quantum concordate. More ships appeared. Word of your achievement has spread. Within hours, the Sydney Opera House hosted the most diverse gathering of species in Earth's history. Crystalline beings like the Zoraxians, energy creatures that flickered like aurora borealis, entities that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once, all drawn by rumors of the power of human laughter. Our sun died centuries ago, an Arcturian representative rippled. We survive on artificial stars, but the energy cost is unsustainable. The quantum wells are running dry, a Concordate member hummed. We thought ourselves masters of energy manipulation, yet your species creates it from joy. Xander stood before them, acutely aware that he was no longer just representing his own research or even Earth, but humanity's unique gift to the galaxy. The joy engine doesn't just convert laughter to energy, he explained. It taps into something fundamental about consciousness itself. When beings share happiness, they create something greater than the sum of its parts. The aliens murmured among themselves. Many of their species had evolved beyond emotions, seeing them as primitive vestiges. Now they faced extinction because they'd forgotten how to laugh. We propose, the Nebula Nomad spokesperson glowed, making Earth the center of a new galactic energy initiative. Your entertainment can power 1,000 worlds. In exchange, the Arcturian added, we offer technological advancement beyond your imagination. Counter-proposal, Xander said, thinking of the Zoraxians' earlier dismissal of human emotions. We'll share our technology freely, if you let us teach your species to laugh again. The assembly erupted in electromagnetic disturbances that his instruments interpreted as shock, a species offering to share world-saving technology with no demands for payment. It had to be a joke. And then someone in the back, Xander was pretty sure it was a quantum physicist from Alpha Centauri, actually got the joke. The resulting burst of alien almost laughter sent power readings through the roof. Perhaps, High Commander Zix chimed thoughtfully, the Zoraxian Empire's evolution has taken us down an incomplete path. We sought to transcend emotion, not understanding that joy itself might be the ultimate power source. News spread across the galaxy. Earth became a beacon, not for its technological advancement or military might, but for its ability to make the universe laugh. Ships arrived by the hundreds, then thousands. Tourists, scientists, diplomats, all eager to experience the power of human humor. And in a delicious twist of irony that humans particularly appreciated, the species that had spent millennia looking down on emotions now had to embrace them to survive. The galaxy's most advanced civilizations found themselves taking comedy classes from what they had considered a primitive species. As Xander watched Earth become the galaxy's biggest comedy club, he couldn't help but appreciate the universe's sense of humor. Sometimes the best joke is the one you never saw coming. 5 years after the first Joy engine test, Dr. Xander Vale stood on stage at the grand opening of the Milky Way's largest entertainment complex, the last laugh on Zorax Prime. The crystalline spires of the Zoraxian capital now pulsed with colors that matched their audience's emotions, a sight that would have been considered heretical a few years ago. When they first laughed at my ideas, Xander began his speech, I never thought that would literally save the galaxy. The multi-species audience responded with everything from human chuckles to crystalline chimes to quantum fluctuations of amusement. The Joy engine technology had evolved beyond anyone's wildest expectations. Earth's entertainment districts now powered entire solar systems. Human comedy tours generated enough energy to reignite dying stars. The universe's first faster-than-light communication network ran on synchronized laughter across light years. Dr. Henderson, now head of the Galactic Energy Commission, approached the podium. I admit I was wrong about Dr. Vale's research, though in my defense, he added with newfound humor, perpetual motion machines powered by dad jokes did sound ridiculous. The Zoraxians had undergone the most dramatic transformation. Their once rigid society now hosted comedy festivals that doubled as power plants. Young crystals were encouraged to vibrate at emotionally optimal frequencies. They'd even developed their own style of humor, mostly involving complex quantum mechanics puns that only crystalline beings found funny. High Commander Zix, his form now permanently tinted with the rainbow hues of emotional expression, made the final announcement. The Galactic Council has approved the establishment of the universe's first College of Comedic Engineering. Dr. Vale will serve as its founding dean. The applause was enough to power a small moon, but the real victory wasn't in the awards or recognition. It was in the way the galaxy had changed. Species that had spent millennia looking down on emotions now studied human sitcoms like sacred texts. The most prestigious science prize in the universe was now shaped like a rubber chicken. As Xander watched a group of Zoraxian youngsters attempt their first knock-knock joke, with mixed results, his original joy engine beeped from its display case. The primitive prototype had become a holy relic of sorts studied by engineering students across the galaxy. And now, he announced, the moment you've all been waiting for, the first graduating class of Zoraxian stand-up comedians. The audience held their breath, those that breathed, as a line of crystalline beings took the stage. The first one stepped up to the microphone, vibrating nervously. "Why did the quantum physicist break up with the biologist?" the Zoraxian chimed. "Because there was too much uncertainty in the relationship." The groan from the audience generated enough power to run the capital's grid for a week. As Xander watched his former critics literally glowing with laughter, he pulled out his old research notes. On the first page he'd written, "Hypothesis: joy is the most powerful force in the universe." Below it, in fresh ink, he added, "Conclusion: proved beyond a reasonable doubt." And somewhere, in a distant corner of the galaxy, a new species was discovering humor for the first time. Their first laugh already traveling through space, ready to light up the darkness between stars.